Are you tired of getting blurry wildlife and bird photos? Want to know the top 3 reasons why it's happening and how to fix it? Steve for Backcountry Gallery here, and today we're counting down the 3 biggest sharpness killers for wildlife photographers and how to avoid them. And yes, 100% you've definitely been hit by all 3 of these at one time or another, even if you didn't realize it. Make sure you stay till the end. Number 1 is sneaky and surprises nearly every photographer when they first learn about it. Let's go ahead and count them down. Number 3, the wrong AF area. One of the most common sharpness killers is using the wrong AF area or improper use of subject detection. Here's your first clue that you have an AF area issue. You're getting part of the animal sharp, maybe a wingtip, maybe the body, maybe the nose, but the eye is soft and mushy. Let's fix the problem by splitting this into 2 camps. First, traditional AF areas with subject detection turned off. Second, subject detection grabbing the wrong thing. When you're not using subject detection and the eye is soft, the problem is usually because your AF area is too large. Most AF areas grab the first area of good contrast they find, and typically they prioritize near to far focus. So with a bird in flight, the wingtip might be a juicier target than the head, or with the subject facing the camera, the nose or the beak might be the area your camera targets. The fix? Use the smallest AF area you can reliably keep on the subject. The larger the AF area, the more control you give over to the camera. In fact, when subject detection is off, single point AF is my hero for static subjects. For action, I'll use a larger AF area, but I still use the smallest I can manage to keep on the eye. So what about subject detection? My rule of thumb is simple. If subject detection gets you more sharp eyes than you can on your own, leave it on. If not, shut it off and take over. When subject detection nails the eye, all is right with the world. Where it causes trouble is when it consistently locks onto something other than the eye, and that something is on a different focal plane. Take this Inhinga, for example. The camera locked onto the body every time, but never the head. And since the body wasn't on the same focal plane as the eye, I had a 100% failure rate. Turning off subject detection and just using the small wide AF area fixed the problem. And of course, subject detection grabbing the wrong area can happen with both static and action subjects. Oh, and here's a quick action tip. The better you are at keeping the subject anchored in the frame as you track it, the more reliably subject detection will stick to the face and the eye. Of course, subject detection doesn't always have to grab the eye to be successful. When the part it grabs is on the same focal plane, like if you have a bird flying parallel to your position and it grabs the head, that's usually just fine. Even if it doesn't grab the eye, locking onto the face, and sometimes even the body in that scenario, will often get you those sharp eyeballs we're after. The key is watching where the subject detection box lands. If it's consistently off target, don't keep hoping it's going to sort itself out. However, the real trap is intermittent subject detection performance. In this situation, subject detection is sometimes on target, but mostly off. Too often, people stick with it, and at the perfect moment, it lands on a nose or an ear, and it costs them the shot. If you see intermittent behavior in this viewfinder with subject detection, it's often best just to shut it off and take over. So again, just ask yourself, is subject detection getting more sharp eyes on your card than you can without it? If not, don't be afraid to turn it off and take control. Number 2, shutter speed is too slow. Coming in at number 2 are shutter speeds that are just too slow, especially for action. Photographers routinely underestimate how fast of a shutter speed they need to freeze motion, and they end up with shots so soft that cotton balls are jealous. The first thing to check is whether you're having a shutter speed problem or a focus problem. The telltale sign of a shutter speed that's too slow is visible streaking of the details in the image, as shown here. If you spot that in your photos, and it's often more subtle than the example here, it's a sure sign you need a faster shutter speed. Slow shutter speed disasters come in many flavors. Here are the 3 that are going to bite you the most often. The first is trying to handhold a lens at a shutter speed that's just too slow. Although some shooters are rock steady and can go ridiculously slow, my recommendation for most people is to follow the 1/4 focal length rule and use stabilization. For example, if you're shooting a 500mm lens, turn on stabilization and don't drop below 1/500th of a second. And honestly, if you can shoot a faster shutter speed, go for it. We're not always super steady in the heat of battle. The second is when panning along with an action subject. Your safe shutter speed depends on how well you keep the subject anchored in the frame. For instance, for the average bird and flight shooter, 1/2000th to 1/3200th of a second is pretty much the sweet spot. But newcomers may need something faster. If you're more experienced, you can go considerably slower. Heck, this was at 1/15th of a second, and it works because I kept the bird pinned to the same place in the frame during the exposure. Also, generally speaking, the faster your shutter speed, the higher the keep rate is going to be, at least until you get into those crazy shutter speeds where it becomes kind of a game of diminishing returns. I've included a chart here with shutter speed ranges based on bird sizes and experience level. Beginners start on the right side, veterans can lean towards the left. The third is action coming right at the camera. People always underestimate this one, and it's a brutal lesson. When you're panning, you help keep the subject in position in the viewfinder so you're not fully relying on shutter speed to get a sharp image. However, with an animal coming right at the camera, it's a different story. You can't pan along to help keep it in position, so you have to fully rely on shutter speed to keep things sharp. Here's a chart with some recommended shutter speeds for animals coming straight towards the camera. Also, as a bonus tip, if you have an animal coming in kind of a 45-degree angle, you'll probably need a faster shutter speed than required for a side view panning shot, but you can probably get away with a slower shutter speed than if it's coming right at the camera. So something in the middle there. The bottom line is, if you're struggling with blurry photos, don't blame the gear. First, try using a faster shutter speed, at least one stop faster, maybe even 2 stops faster. I can't tell you the number of times I've given people that advice, and once they stopped resisting it, they saw an instant improvement in sharpness. Give it a try. Number 1, atmospherics. The number 1 sharpness killer, the air itself. Atmospheric distortion is a silent sharpness destroyer, and most people don't even realize it's happening. The worst offender is heat haze, also called heat distortion or heat refraction. And this is the one photographers resist the most because it doesn't always look like anything is wrong in the field. But if your shots are soft for no obvious reason, the odds are good that heat haze is the culprit. If you've ever looked down the road on a hot sunny day and noticed shimmering waves in the distance, you've seen heat distortion in action. That shimmer is caused by rising warm air mixing with the cooler air above it, and it bends the light passing through it, just like water does. And here's the trap. You don't need a hot day for this to happen. You just need 2 air layers with different temperatures mixing together. In fact, I think this is almost worse in cold weather than warm. Snow-covered fields in the sun are especially problematic. And it's not just limited to open fields. Parking lots, bodies of water, shooting out of a warm car on a cold day, and believe it or not, lens hoods under certain conditions can cause serious sharpness issues due to heat differences. I have a complete video about this that I'll link at the end of this video. If you're concerned about sharpness, it's a must-watch. I'm often asked if there's a setting or a piece of gear that can fix this, and the bottom line is that it's a physics problem. Think of it sort of like shooting through dirty glass. No matter how great your gear is or how good your settings are, as long as you're shooting through that grimy glass, your images are going to be soft. Well, you can't tweak a menu or upgrade gear to beat the physics of it. You can outmaneuver it. Get closer so you're shooting through less of that turbulent air. Work early or late when the temperatures are a little more stable. Fire bursts. Sometimes a sharp image kind of slips through during a momentary pocket of calm air. And if you can shift gears and go for a subject in the shade, absolutely do it. That's my number 1 tip for this. The second common type of atmospheric issue is distance. The farther away the subject is, the more atmospheric stuff between you and the target. This stuff can be haze, dust, humidity, pollen, fog, those sorts of things. And yes, heat haze piles on top of all that stuff as well. The only real solution in this scenario is to get closer to the subject. No more elephants using an 800mm lens and a teleconverter. So there you have it. Nail the right AF area, respect shutter speed, and dodge bad atmospherics, and your wildlife shots will be sharp enough to cut your eye when you look at them. Got a sharpness horror story or secret tip? Drop it in the comments below. If this helped, tap like, subscribe, and check out the links below for my deep dive video on heat haze. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.